My name is Lisa, and I turned 26 this year. I was the third child, the accidental third child, born into a family that already had two sons, Michael and Daniel. From the moment I can remember, their faces, my parents' faces, were etched with a cold indifference that only deepened over the years. My brothers, older and perpetually adored, simply mirrored their parents' disdain. I was an afterthought, a burden, an inconvenience that somehow survived. Growing up in our suburban Maryland home, love was a language spoken only to Michael and Daniel. Their birthdays were grand affairs, their achievements, no matter how small, were celebrated with fanfare. My own milestones, if noticed at all, were met with a curt nod or a dismissive wave. I learned early that crying was useless, begging was pathetic, and showing emotion only invited more ridicule. So, I built walls around myself, brick by painstaking brick. I became a girl of few words, sharp observation, and unshakable self-reliance. The lack of warmth in my childhood forged a resilience that would define my adulthood. I became cold, yes, but also fiercely decisive. After graduating high school, I left home for college in Boston and never looked back. I worked 3 part-time jobs, took out student loans, and poured every ounce of my energy into my studies. I graduated top of my class, not for praise, but for the quiet satisfaction of proving I could thrive despite, or perhaps because of, their absence. I landed a job at a prestigious newspaper in New York City, a national outlet known for its investigative journalism and demanding pace. It was a high-paying, stable position. A far cry from the precarious existence my parents had always predicted for me. Life in the city was exhilarating. I found a small, sun-drenched apartment in Brooklyn, decorated it with things I loved, and cultivated a small circle of loyal friends who understood my guarded nature. The emotional deprivation of my childhood had, ironically, made me a master of self-control. I could navigate complex situations with a calm that unnerved some, and a precision that impressed others. I was financially independent, professionally successful, and fiercely autonomous. For years, my family was little more than a distant echo, a name on a holiday card, an occasional brief phone call that always felt like an obligation rather than a connection. I had built a life where their absence was a strength, not a wound. Then, about 6 months ago, the calls started changing. My mother, Eleanor, usually aloof and critical, began asking about my life in New York with an almost unsettling sweetness. My father, Richard, usually dismissive, would inquire about my career, even expressing a semblance of pride. My brothers, Michael and Daniel, who typically only contacted me if they needed money, called just to check in. It was like a strange, uncomfortable play, where everyone was reading from a script I didn't recognize. I, the person who understood human motives better than most, was wary. But beneath the hardened exterior, a tiny, bruised part of me, the child who had always longed for a flicker of warmth, began to stir. The reason for their sudden kindness soon became clear. One Sunday afternoon, during a particularly syrupy phone call, my mother Eleanor launched into a wistful monologue about the dream trip she and my father had always wanted to take, a grand tour of Europe, perhaps Southeast Asia, maybe even a cruise around the world. She spoke of it as a distant fantasy, something only for the wealthy. Then, my father, Richard, interjected, "Of course, we'd want to go as a family. Make up for lost time. Imagine, all 5 of us exploring the world together." It was blatant. Transparent, even. They were manipulating me, trying to pry open my wallet. The rational, pragmatic part of me screamed to hang up, to dismiss their saccharine pretense. But that tiny, bruised part, the child who had always yearned for a place at their table, for genuine inclusion, flickered. A world trip, with them? It was an absurd fantasy, yet the idea of being wanted for something other than my utility, of being treated as a beloved family member, was intoxicating. I found myself softening, letting my guard down, something I hadn't done since childhood. "How about this?" I heard myself say, my voice surprisingly even. "You two plan the itinerary. for all 5 of us. Don't worry about the cost. I'll take care of it. A chorus of joyful exclamations erupted on the other end of the line. My mother gasped, my father cheered. And even my brothers offered enthusiastic congratulations. Oh, Lisa, darling, you're the best. We always knew you'd do great things. My mother's voice was sickly sweet, almost sickeningly so. I listened to their effusive praise, their sudden declarations of love, and for the first time in my life, I felt a warmth spread through my chest, a fleeting, fragile sense of belonging. It was a dangerous warmth, one built on sand, but I let myself believe it, just for a little while. I was so caught up in the intoxicating possibility of finally being part of their family that I ignored the nagging voice in the back of my mind. The one that whispered about their history of calculated cruelty. I spent the next few weeks meticulously researching destinations, booking flights, and reserving hotels. I found the best deals, negotiated prices, and ensured every detail was perfect for a 2-week luxury trip across Europe, culminating in a Mediterranean cruise. I booked 5 first-class tickets, making sure everyone had their preferred seats, their dietary needs noted, their comfort prioritized. The total cost was exorbitant, a sum that would make most people gasp, but my steady, high-paying job allowed it. Each click, each confirmation email, filled me with a strange mixture of excitement and apprehension. I imagined us laughing together in Paris, marveling at the Colosseum, sharing stories on the cruise deck. I was building a dream, not just for them, but for the fractured family I so desperately wanted to fix. The last step was retrieving the tickets. Since I was the one paying and managing everything, all the tickets were issued to me electronically. I printed out 5 crisp, personalized boarding passes, each one a symbol of my hope. The day of departure dawned, a crisp autumn morning in New York. Our flight to Rome was scheduled for 10 a.m. from JFK. I had meticulously planned for us to meet at the airport 2 hours early. I arrived promptly at 7:45 a.m., my heart thrumming with a nervous excitement I hadn't felt in years. I scanned the bustling terminal, searching for my family. They weren't there. Puzzled, I pulled out my phone. No texts, no calls. Just the usual silence. A cold dread began to creep in. I called my mother. No answer. My father. Straight to voicemail. My brothers. Ringing, then silence. My mind, ever analytical, began connecting the dots, their sudden affection, the elaborate trip planning, their bizarre secrecy about little details like luggage sizes or preferred airlines. And then, a chilling realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. They weren't just late. They weren't coming with me. I rushed to the check-in counter for our airline, my hands trembling as I presented my ID. I'm Lisa Vance, flying to Rome. I believe my family should already be here. The agent typed on her keyboard, her expression hardening. Ms. Vance, we have 4 passengers checked in under your booking. Eleanor Vance, Richard Vance, Michael Vance, and Daniel Vance. They checked in an hour ago and have already passed through security. My breath caught in my throat. 4? But there should be 5. I booked 5 tickets. The agent frowned. Ma'am, the 5th ticket, for Elisa Vance, was cancelled and refunded this morning. It looks like it was processed via an online request associated with the initial purchase. My world spun. Cancelled? Refunded? My voice was barely a whisper. I was the one who had made the purchase. I was the one with the refund option. And suddenly, I understood. The feigned affection, the family trip, the elaborate charade. It was all a monstrous trick, a calculated deception to get me to pay for their vacation while leaving me behind, abandoned and humiliated. I stared at the agent. The bustling airport fading into a blur. My ticket. Where is it? She pointed to a trash can overflowing with discarded boarding passes and coffee cups. Perhaps it was accidentally discarded, ma'am? We can try to print you another, but the flight is closing soon and you're not checked in. My eyes fell on a small, crumpled piece of paper sticking out of the top of the bin. A first-class boarding pass. My name, Lisa Vance, clearly visible. But it was torn, savagely, into dozens of pieces. They hadn't just cancelled it. They had shredded it, a final, cruel statement of their contempt. A wave of fury, cold and sharp, unlike anything I had ever felt before, washed over me. It wasn't the sadness of a child abandoned anymore, it was the rage of a woman betrayed, of a mind manipulated, of a heart ripped to shreds by those who claimed to be family. They had treated me like a fool, a useful tool to be discarded once its purpose was served. A puppet in their twisted little circus. My hands were shaking, not from despair, but from pure, incandescent rage. I pulled out my phone, my fingers flying across the keypad. I called my best friend, Captain Alex Chen. He was a pilot for the same airline, and by sheer coincidence, he was scheduled to captain that very flight to Rome. "Alex," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I need you to do something for me. On flight 789 to Rome. The Vance party. They are my family. And I need you to remove them from the plane immediately. I bought those tickets. I have the right to cancel them. And I am doing so, right now." There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end. "Lisa? What are you talking about? Your family is here, they just boarded." "Alex, they just left me stranded at the airport. They tore up my ticket. They used me to pay for their trip. Do it. Now." His professional demeanor kicked in. "Understood, Lisa. Confirmed cancellation for the Vance party on flight 789. Please hold." Within minutes, I received a notification on my phone, "Flight 789 to Rome delayed. Passengers asked to deplane." And then, a call from Alex. "Lisa, they're off the plane." The gate agent and a flight attendant explained that the purchasing party, you, cancelled their tickets due to a personal dispute. They're not happy. Security is involved, but legally, you're in the clear. Since the tickets were cancelled before takeoff, they will receive no refund. A grim satisfaction spread through me. They weren't getting their trip. They weren't getting my money. And they were getting a very public, very humiliating lesson in consequences. My phone immediately began to ring, a torrent of angry calls from my parents and brothers. I let them ring, watching their names flash across the screen. Finally, I picked up my father's call. "Lisa. What in God's name have you done? We've been kicked off the plane. Our tickets are cancelled. The airline says you did this." "Why?" His voice was a roar of indignation. "Oh, hello, Dad," I replied, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Surprised? You wanted a trip. Didn't you? I simply provided it. And then, I decided not to share." But why?" His voice faltered, confusion replacing rage. "Why?" I repeated, a dry, humorless laugh escaping my lips. "You tell me, Dad. Why did you treat me like a fool? Why did you use me, discard me, then try to leave me stranded? You think I don't see through your pathetic charade? You think I actually believed your sudden, sickeningly sweet words of love after 26 years of disdain? Lisa, we didn't mean for." "Stop," I cut him off, my voice hardening. "I don't need your fake love anymore. I don't need your apologies. I don't need anything from any of you. In fact, I'm taking back everything I provided." A chill silence descended on the line. "What are you talking about?" my father stammered. "The TV in the living room? My money. The new car in the driveway? My money. And the house you're currently standing in?" I paused, letting the words sink in. "That's in my name. It's legally mine. I paid for it, maintained it, and now I'm selling it. Everything you thought you had, everything you took for granted, is gone. Because I'm not letting people who deceive their own daughter enjoy assets I worked tirelessly to acquire. You can't. Oh, I can, Dad. It's all been processed this morning. The house is already under contract, the car is being repossessed, and the TV will be gone by tomorrow. He started to plead, to beg, his voice cracking. Lisa, please. We're sorry. We made a mistake. Just, please, don't do this. Where will we go? That's not my problem, Dad, I replied, my voice as cold as ice. Thank you for giving birth to me. And thank you for teaching me, through your constant unfairness, exactly what kind of person I never want to be. This call is over. I hung up. My hand didn't even tremble. After the call, I completed one final task. I transferred every cent from the joint family bank account, an account they primarily used for household expenses, which I had occasionally contributed to, back into my personal accounts. It was all my money anyway, earned through my hard work, untouched by their manipulation. The entire sum, now safely beyond their reach. My parents and 2 brothers arrived home later that day, exhausted, humiliated, and stunned. The house was empty. The locks changed. The new car was gone. Their world, which they had so carelessly built on my generosity, had crumbled. They called me, pleaded with me, even showed up at my apartment building, but I was resolute. I had removed them from my life as clinically and decisively as I had removed them from that flight. Lisa, please. We have nowhere to go. Have mercy, my mother cried over the phone. My answer was firm, unwavering. No second chances for you. You taught me that. And I learned my lesson well. I sold my apartment, packed only the essentials, and moved to a sprawling metropolis on the West Coast, a city where the past couldn't follow me. I started over, not from scratch, but from a place of quiet strength and profound freedom. The burden of their cruelty, the yearning for their love, had finally lifted. I built a new life, one that was truly my own, filled with genuine connections and unburdened by the ghosts of a toxic past. The serene, self-sufficient life I had always craved, finally mine.